Namaste. Let us start. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Just chant verse number 20 and 24 and 25. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tvatodvayam kamadya Kamadya Drsya Tatsakshittvena Chetanam Dhyayed Drisyanuvriddhoyam Samadhi Savikalpakaha. Number 25. Asanga Satchidanandaha Swaprabhodvaita Varjitaha Asmiti Shabda Vidhoyam Samadhi Savikalpakaha. Well, first of all, before we begin, my good wishes to all of you on this occasion of Diwali. On the earlier class, I spent some time discussing the significance of Diwali. So I won't go through the full details, but I'll give you the essence of what I think the Diwali means. So Diwali is not part of the Vedas, but it is a man-made religious function. And as a religious function, it points to the truth of Vedas. It may not exactly be the truth as it is, because it doesn't have to be celebrated, but it is useful to follow it because it points to the truth. So in the sense that Diwali has two main aspects of it that people follow. So one is that of light over darkness, the triumph of truth over non-truth. And so that can be in the form of Rama coming back after having rescued Sita and regaining his kingship, or it could be in the form of any light, any truth that triumphs over non-truth. Or the other aspect of that is to be asking for wealth from Devi Lakshmi. So we do Lakshmi Puja on this day. So that are the two of the other aspects. So in both aspects, what it means is that the outer light, outer vidya means light, knowledge means truth. If you don't know something, that means that you are flailing in darkness. But if you know the exact nature of something, then you can follow that nature and be truthful about it. And so darkness is dispelled by light, but in most cases the light that we have is not fully utilized because it is a knowledge for something specific that you do, like a knowledge of medicine or engineering or something like that. Here, however, it points out to a knowledge which is never failing. Failing in the sense that the other vidya is only specifically useful for certain situations, but not always useful. But the self-knowledge is always useful because it is the very nature of the self. So this is number one. The second thing is that any wealth that you have is not truly a wealth because it is borrowed wealth. It is taken away from you if the conditions are not right, and eventually death takes all our wealth away. And so we don't really, all this is not true wealth. The true wealth is the wealth of self-knowledge. Why? Because that is your own Swarupa and it doesn't change. So in summary, the Diwali is a very beautiful function, and by itself it simply points out that it is a fraction of the reality of both the knowledge, the light, as well as the wealth that the knowledge provides. So this is why it is called a religious function, not a spiritual function, although the religiosity points the truth about the spirituality. So that's the significance of Diwali. All right, let us resume our text. So last time we did, as you know, this very beautiful text that really does everything very systematically. So it points out the Asti Bhati Priyam and Rupam and Nama as the 5 basic aspects of our life. And the first 3 are unchanging and the last 2 are changing. The Asti Bhati Priyam, this is what is called Adyatrayam. Adya means in the beginning of these 5 things. Brahma Rupam. So Brahma Rupam means one which is the truth about our lives and not changing. And Jagat Rupam Tatodvayam. And after that, the other 2 are to do with experiences in our life. So then we did an example. So there, in the verse number 22, before we go to the example, said, Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha Samadhim sarvada kuryat hridayeva athava bahihi. So it says that may you do meditation by disregarding the names and forms. Upeksha nama rupe dve, disregarding the changes and being absorbed in the pursuit of the unchanging, which is Satchidananda. And this can be done in 2 ways, either inside or outside. It was presented in number 22. And in number 23, it further said that if you are, so we will cover all of these. So the first one to be covered is Hridihi, which is inside your heart, inside your mind. Nothing to do with the world outside, but just who you are as a person, as your thoughts and so on. This is called Hridihi. This is one of 2 types further. One is Savikalpaha and the other one is Nirvikalpaha. So Savikalpo, Nirvikalpaha, Samadhi, Dvivido, Hridihi. So with changes and without changes. With form and without form. Okay? Then further it says that out of the Savikalpaha, there are two kinds of Savikalpa. With forms has two sides, two different segments. One is Drsya Anuvedena and the other one is Shabda Anuvedena. So one is based on Drishya, means what you cognize to be in something that you see in front of you. So this is called Drishya Anuvedena. The other one is called Shabda Anuvedena, which we will do today. So I'm just revising what we did last week. So last week we took the example of Drsya Anuvedhena. So Anuvedhena means connected to, associated with, controlled by, something like that. So associated with Drsya, that samadhi is called Savikalpa Samadhi. So there we saw the example, we actually did a samadhi as an example of Drsya Anuvedhena Savikalpa Samadhi. So we should be very clear about putting these are structures that you should put in. It's almost like supposing you buy some books and you have a collection of books in your study, or just like a librarian does. So when the librarian gets some new stock of books, they don't just throw it anywhere, they have to put it in the right spot. Similarly for you and I, what we should get into the habit of doing, which is difficult to do. I have a study where my whole wall is full of books, and we have books on the Upanishads. Then I have a section for Brahma Sutra, section for Bhagavad Gita, section for my notes that I studied, section for Sanskrit, and some section for doing puja, etc. So I have a separate segment, and immediately when I see a book, I see this is where it goes to. So similarly here also, we should be very clear about that when we are doing meditation, what kind of meditation should we be doing? What are we doing? And in fact, you see, this is an interesting point. Whatever we are talking about samadhi is not just limited to the samadhi. It should be a precursor to your whole life. This is an important point to see. So for instance, let's look at, I just want to expand on that point. So for example, what we did on Drsya Anuvedhena Samadhi, and we did the meditation last week, where we saw that when you close your eyes, then you let your thoughts in this particular samadhi, which is Drsya Anuvedhena Samadhi, you let your thoughts just come. Don't block them. And so this is what we do by habit. So there are certain thoughts that come to my mind, and I tend to change them. I tend to replace one thought by another. If it's sometimes a memory of a previous unpleasant experience and it comes to my mind, then I try to block it off. No, I don't want to remember it. And then we could go to something else. You see, many times the thoughts don't take your permission. You cannot just, they just come by itself. And then you have to deal with it. And the way we normally deal with it is that we change it. We block it. We react to it. We continue to work on those thoughts. And then we also have associated thoughts. So this is what happens. So for example, your thoughts are that you have to go to visit some place. And then you say, let me see, do I have enough gas? No, I don't think I do. I better get some gas. Which station should I go to? That station is very expensive. I wonder why the gas prices in California are so high. what is happening? And then it comes to energy policy. Trump is not doing this. He's aiding the oil industry, and Biden comes in. So all you wanted to do was to go someplace, and now you're talking about Trump and Biden and all those kinds of things. This is how we think. So there we were told that the Savikalpa Samadhi Hridi should be done in a different way. What way should we do it? The way it should be done is, if the thoughts come, whether it is about Trump thoughts or Biden thoughts or gas prices thoughts or energy policy thoughts, whatever the thoughts are, you let it go. You let them pass by. Instead, your focus should be the difference between the unchanging and the changing. My gosh, these thoughts come and go, but I am still there. I am in fact the very ocean of consciousness. And these thoughts are like waves that come and go. Wow. This should be the direction of your samadhi. So you're not really concerned about what type of thoughts there are. But just don't go with them. Mahaswami Dayanandji had once given a very beautiful example of this. He says, supposing you have a child, and when he was talking about it, it was very relevant to us because one of our children was of that age. He says when they are in elementary school and middle school, they are like 8 or 9 or 10-year-old, then you have a little better control over what type of friends do they have. The teacher has a good discipline in the class, relatively speaking, and you are protected from it. But he says, suppose the children go to high school. This is exactly what happened to our kids also. And if you go to the high school, you will see such a variety of different students. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. They are into drinking and drugs and so on. And they are also in the same class. So you cannot legislate. You cannot tell your child, don't go to a class when there are some bad people in the class. You can't do that. What you can do, however, is to caution them not to go with those people. When the class is over and there is some attraction about these people, they might say, come on, let's have a beer. And you say, no, I'm not supposed to have beer. Then you say, oh, what kind of a prude you are. You're already 17 and you haven't had beer yet? Come on, come with us. So he says the parents should teach the children to ignore it. Just smile at them and say, I am so busy. Okay, maybe tomorrow, but not today. Just do not associate it with them. Very good advice. You cannot block these people from attending the class because the whole world is very wide in the high school. And instead, you just don't associate with them. Exactly what we are doing here in this Savikalpa Drsya Nuvedana Samadhi, where you say, let the thoughts come. It's like a high school. There have been so many experiences in the past. Some good, not so big. Some people bothered you and you did something to them. Those thoughts may come. Or different kind of thoughts from Trump to Biden and so on and so forth. This is wide open. But in this useful way of doing samadhi, don't get involved in those thoughts. And he says, why should this be like that? Like, for example, these days Trump is refusing to leave. And you are bothered by it. How can he do this? He's undermining democracy. He's clearly lost. Why can't he just accept it? And if you're just bothered by it, in this samadhi, at least for this samadhi, let it go. If the Trump thoughts come, negative Trump thoughts or positive Biden thoughts, or however, if you may be just the opposite, you may be a Trump supporter. How can Biden do this? We have lots of our friends who are Trump supporters. It doesn't matter. But the point is that you just don't bother about one form or the other. Instead, you should be really thinking about the relationship of any thoughts with your own consciousness. As I was discussing in the earlier class, one of the best meditations really been very useful to me is to be aware of the fact that I am always conscious. Just something very similar. You'll say, well, what's so big about that? Of course we are always conscious. But to see that I am like the ocean of consciousness, and my thoughts are like waves, and sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not there. The waves that is. But I am always there. And at first your mind will say, so what? What's the big thing about it? What is something so new that you're learning here? But this is due to the fact that I do not appreciate the sheer significance of myself as a formless consciousness, always there. And slowly this significance of this should grow on me. And this can grow if I know that these are the basic facts. Asti bhati priyam nama rupam chaiti ansha panchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam. My gosh, I am the very ocean, the ocean of consciousness. So this is what is called Chidakasha. And Akasha, sky, which is nothing but awareness. Jnanam, knowledge. I know. And if in the thoughts come, let them come. Doesn't make any difference to me. Because if I ignore them, it's kind of like in high school. If you if the other people say, come on, let's have a beer together, and you say, I'd love to, but you cannot anger them. Anger them means to block them. You'll say, I'd love to, but today I'm too busy. Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow the guy comes in and he says, okay, you said you'll have beer today. Oh my gosh, I can't do it today because I have some homework to do. Or my mom she has to pick me up. Pretty soon the guys will get the difference that he is signaling to me he's not one of us. He'll go away. We ignore it. This is the essence of this type of meditation. Now, what I wanted to say here is that these instructions are not just for the time when you are doing meditation with your eyes closed, which may be for half hour during the day. You still have to live 23 and a half other hours during the day. or at least 14 hours a day or whatever. So it is not as though, you follow these instructions just for the time when you are doing meditation and the rest of the time you do something else. No. A meditation in Vedanta is like a beachhead. And so I don't know who had conveyed this. I think it was Swami Dayanandji. He made a very beautiful point about this thing about beachhead. So if you go back to the Second World War, when the Nazi army was very active and really expanding, I mean, we are really fearful about how close they came to really conquering all of Europe and creating a huge issue. And what happened was when the Americans decided that they're going to side with the British in blocking the Nazi advance, the Nazi army was still very powerful and very big. And so the Germans were not sure how to do that because we are so far away from the scene of the battles. So I'm told that the plan was to have a beachhead. Beachhead means in Normandy, they found out that the Germans were not that focused on that part of Europe. And if we could grab that portion and make that into an example for us, we have a lot of our tanks and our artillery and so on and so forth. Let us have a strong point in all of Europe at this stage. And from there, we expanded to the rest of the Europe. And apparently this was a very successful strategy that took place. So therefore Swami Dayanandji used to say, meditation should be seen as a beachhead. So how? When you're transacting in the normal day's work, you don't have time to do all of this about, asti bhati priyam and this is brahmarupam and so on and so forth. You're busy, people are talking to you, you are responding, you're transacting. But a meditation is a good beachhead. Close the door, close the lights, tell people, please do not disturb me at this time. I want to do meditation for half hour. You create a beachhead and you now get into the habit of what we just all talked about. But it doesn't mean that the rest of the day you go back to forgetting about this. So it's like, okay, we conquered Normandy, and now we can, if the Germans attack us, we can defend ourselves. No, that is just a start for taking all of Europe back from the Nazis. Similarly here also, the meditation is a start. So what that means is this. You should get into the habit of practicing not blocking thoughts as they occur during the day. Let them come. But to try to focus on the unchanging you. Now, normally you were not able to do this, but through the practice of meditation, you have gained some strength in being able to do that. Expand that strength to the rest of the day. And instead what happened? So there we have to make a distinction, obviously, in an intelligent way. if there are some things that are necessary to be done, then you don't compromise with that. Do it. If you have to drive people somewhere, you have to eat yourself, you have to go to work, all those kinds of things you have to do it. But what we're talking about is when you don't have to do anything particular, then do not get lost in thoughts that are bothering you. Do not, and even so, this is where you even have some desires. Let's do this. Wouldn't it be nice to do this? So when you say, wouldn't it be nice to do this, you are now caught up in a particular stream of activities, of thinking and so on, where you are serious and you have to pursue it, and you are now completely engaged, and you have lost the opportunity of contemplation. Who am I? And that sense of contemplation, which is called Drsya Samadhi, you start with meditation, and slowly it should percolate the rest of the day. Okay. So anyway, and in that sense, really these principles apply whether or not you're doing meditation or not. One very useful thing to do really is occasionally do this contemplation, sometimes with your eyes closed and sometimes with the eyes open. And now it's interesting, if you just do this phenomena even now, what you find is it is you, the consciousness, with your eyes closed, and you, the same consciousness, with your eyes open. Closed, open. Open means now you have all kinds of sights and sounds that are coming in. But your consciousness is still the same. Very beautiful. With thoughts, without thoughts. The Nirvikalpa Samadhi we'll do later. We're still doing with thoughts. So this is Savikalpa Samadhi. So this is the Drisyanuvedena Savikalpa Samadhi Hridi. Okay, so we're pretty much done with verse number 23 and 24. So 24 we did Kamadhyaha Chittagaha Drisyaha Samsakshitvaina Chetanam Dhyaye Drisyanuvaddhoyam Samadhi Savikalpaka. So the example of the verse number 23 was Kamadhyaha, desires. So similarly here also when you're working in outside of the samadhi, you'll say, oh, I think we should go there. Let's go to the movie. Now if you follow the desire of going to a movie, especially these days with COVID, people are unable to, it just happened in our Santa Clara County. The restaurants were open for indoor dining, and now there's so much more incidence of people struck by COVID that they have closed it. So there you say, okay, let's go to this restaurant. Now you are all focused on what you need to do to the restaurant, making reservations, this, that, or the other. So this is what is called Kamadhyaha Chittagaha, desires, etc. But in doing that, you can have desires, it's not a big thing. But the main thing is that if you're serious about following through with the teaching and taking advantage of the teaching, there you don't just head along, follow your desires, but any stage of the game, you keep aware of the fact, just like, for example, we did open eyes and closed eyes, you can see, my gosh, I am with the desire and I am without the desire. I am the same person. And then slowly this opens up an avenue for you to explore, where we did this earlier in the class. This is called Ekatma Pratyaya Saram. You are now completely focused on the reality of you as the unchanging consciousness. And it takes a while. Your mind will protest. Your mind will say, what's the big thing? I don't understand. Is this what Vedanta is all about? So what? I've known this all along. What you didn't know was that this is your reality. Your reality is not with forms, but without forms. So you have to just tell the mind, this is something new. You don't know it. And I'm just going to focus on this. Yeah, so those are the general things and so on. Number 24. Now we go to the second type of Savikalpa Samadhi, Hridi. Remember, in the case of putting the books at the right place, this place we are putting it is in Savikalpa Samadhi Hridihi Shabda Anuvedhena. That's number 5. So let's look at number 5. Asangaha Satchidanandaha Swaprabhaha Dvaitavarjitaha Asmiti Shabda Vidhoyam Samadhi Savikalpaka. So he says, now get introduced to a different kind of samadhi. And the different kind of samadhi is a samadhi which is not associated with drishya, what is seen by you, what is felt by you, what is heard by you, but which is associated with words. So Shabda here doesn't mean sound. It should be made a note of. Shabda can also represent just sound. Here it means words. So now you can do samadhi not on drishya but on Shabda, which is words. How and what kind of words? We shouldn't see now. So the words mean words that have some meaning that you understand. Because this is exactly how the life unfolds. If you look at a child, then words are used to express the experiences of the child. So, for example, you'll say to the child, dirty, dirty. The child is picking up some crumbs from the floor and it's outside on the street. It looks like a small piece of candy or something, it picks it up. So the parents have to say, no, this is dirty. The child says, dirty? I hear the word dirty. What does it mean? So even though it's a word, dirty, but the child has no sense of what dirty means. So what has to happen is that the parents have to repeat the words. Number one. Number two, they have to now explain it. And it's dirty is not easy to explain in the beginning, but they have to say this is not good. Hopefully the child knows what good means and bad means. Anyway, without going into the details, the point is that words by themselves do not really convey until you understand what the object is that is associated with the word. So in Vedanta and Sanskrit, so just in Sanskrit, it is denoted by two things, abhidhana and abhidheya. Pardon me. Abhidhana and abhidheya. Abhidhana means word and abhidheya means the object denoted by the word. So this happens in all the cases. The child is told, milk. And then pretty soon they know what milk means. So the child says milk. Something like that. So the word here means the words of the scriptures. Vedantic words. So here the word is asangaha. Asangaha. So asangaha means without attachment. Okay? Satchidanandaha swaprabhaha dvaitavarjitaha. I will go into these words one at a time, but you can see how words can be used to do samadhi. So take the word asangaha. Asangaha means without any attachment. The nature of the Atma is, so here they are referring to asti bhati priyam. Asti bhati priyam, that is the subject of the meditation, right? As separate from nama rupa. So now we are focusing on the word asangaha as the definition of asti bhati priyam, of the Atma. Asangaha. So this is a word that doesn't do anything for me, like a child that is told dirty doesn't do anything for the child. It still puts it in the mouth. And the parents have to enact some kind of a drama. And the drama is they snatch it away from them, stomp on it and says, no, do not do anything. The guy might pull out a candy from their purse or a wallet and give it to them and say, this is okay. Hopefully the child understands eventually that the one which has fallen on the ground is dirty. Not fallen on the ground is okay. Now pretty soon after a few things, then the word dirty becomes understandable. So similarly here also asangaha means it's kind of like a dirty that I don't understand yet. And asanga. So asanga here has to be infused with the understanding. And so once that I have an understanding and maturity with that word, then it starts to lead for a valuable method of doing meditation. So for example, in the case of asanga, sangaha means an attachment. Okay? So like suppose you have a dog and the dog is on your leash. On a leash held by you. So now the dog and you are attached. You are attached. That means if you go forward, the dog is pulled forward. Or if the dog goes somewhere, then you also have to follow it. Just recently, if one of our friends had 2 serious ankle injuries because of a dog that tugged at him unexpectedly, and he fell down, and I think in one case he broke the ankle, and the second time again after 6 months he had a severe sprain on the ankle. So we asked him, I said, what happened? So he says, well, I was just going around and all of a sudden, so what happens is the dogs, when you take them on a street, they react most violently to other dogs. So if you see somebody, they just go towards them or bark them or got attracted to them. I have no idea. So he says, I was just suddenly thrown away and I twisted my ankle and I broke it. This is called attachment. So similarly, this is what happens. Your child is born or your grandchildren, and like any other child on the street, you are not attached to them. If they fall sick, nothing happens to you. But if your own grandchild or a child falls sick, then it does something to you. I hope they're okay. I hope they don't have a very serious problem. You get attached to it. It doesn't have to be a physical attachment. It can be mental attachment. And so at this point in time, I have an attachment to my body. If my body gets sick, I get sick. This is a situation where this is what is called Brahma. Brahma means an erroneous conclusion called Brahma. So the word Brahma is used for saying something which is illogical, doesn't make any sense, and that is approached by the word Prama, which is knowledge and logical thinking. So really speaking, a Brahma creates attachment. We will see this in more detail later on, but suppose you see blueness in the sky. So you ascribe blueness to the sky. This is called Brahma. The sky is not capable of taking on any colors. No, not possible. Another example which is traditionally given is that if you dip a stick into water, the stick seems to bend in the water from the portion which is outside the water, as though it is bent. Brahma is not really spent. It is not really bent. It appears to be bent. So similarly, if the body gets sick, your conclusion is, I am sick. Vedanta says, please understand, this is Brahma. There is no real attachment of you and the body. Just like, for example, sometimes you have a dream, which happens all the time. And in the dream, you fall down and get hurt. In the dream. And you get hurt. Do you know that the hurt of the falling of the dream body feels like you are hurt? Exactly right. We are covering this in great detail in the Mandukya and Karika Upanishad, where we go through so detailed a study of the similarity, almost the identity between the dream experience and the waking experience. Our feeling when we wake up is, oh, that was just a dream, that has nothing to do with it. No, when you were in the dream, you had the same experience as you're having now. So you were hurt by the falling of the dream body just as you are hurt by the falling of the waking body. In both cases, the consciousness is not hurt. Even if you want to be hurt, supposing you say, I want my consciousness to be hurt, it cannot be hurt. Impossible. It's like saying, I want to really paint the space blue. You cannot paint it, I'm sorry. There's no connection between paint and sky and space. They are a different level altogether. But I mix them up because I don't know any better than that. Right now I am whatever the body mind is, I am the same one. This is called Sangha, connection. Here the Shastra uses the word, my dear student, you are asanga. So this I have to see the meaning of. Otherwise it is just like a child just been given table or no idea, milk, table, dirty, etc. I don't have an understanding, just like words. So here when you say Shabda Nuvedena Savikalpa Samadhi, it doesn't mean just words, but words of the scriptures that have been explained by you and you explained to you, and you have an understanding about what it means. At least in the time of instruction. This is why, as you know, I'm just reiterating it. In Vedanta, the meditation comes last. So, first comes listening, then comes a lot of discussion on it in your own mind, clearing of doubts. So this is called Shravanam, and then Mananam. Then the meditation is to remove habitual error. You understand it. That means the words have now been revealed to you in terms of what the asangatvam means. They have been revealed to you, and you've always been thinking about it, but now with the revelation you have a better idea of what that means. It's not just a simple word, but now you really know what it means. But because of the habitual use of, and so for example, take the example of your grandchild falling sick. Even though you've been told, listen, don't worry about the grandchild. You're only worrying about the grandchild because it is attached to you. You have something invested. It is my grandchild, or my child. Hey, why aren't you concerned about any other child getting sick? It is so. The sickness, not sickness, but the botheration of sickness has to do with an idea. This is me. This is a very interesting case because at least if you are sick and somebody comes in and says, no, you should not be bothered about your sickness. He says, wait a second, it's my body and my body is troubling me. Of course I'm troubled. But here, if your child is sick, you don't have any physical discomfort, but you have a mental discomfort. And that discomfort is due to attachment. And so the meditation means, and somebody has explained to you all this, the thing is that you shouldn't worry about, because let them be, they have their own life and so on and so forth. You don't have to worry about it, there's nothing concerned about it. Okay, I understand that. But still, the next time the child gets sick, I get worried again. So at that point, meditation needs to be done. Asangoham. I am unattached. Now the words have a meaning, and now they are doing something for me. I am now not really I'm reminded of the truth of it, that the sky cannot be blue. I am the very space that cannot be colored. It is just a phenomena. The stick is burnt, it is not really bent, it just appears to be bent. So, this kind of samadhi is called Shabda Anuvedena Savikalpa Samadhi. And so this type of meditation requires that many of the words are revealed to you. So take for example Swaprabha. This word, the number 3. Satchidananda, of course, is the basic aspects of what Asti Bhati Priyam is. And this is also repeated in the verse number 22. Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha. So that's a word, and then we'll go over that. But look at the third word, which is Swaprabha. So Swaprabha means, this is a big thing. If I can grasp this fact, I'm amazed. And this is something that has to be appreciated. Swaprabha. Swaprabha means self-effulgent. Self-effulgent. Self-aware. Self-aware. What does self-aware mean? So, self-aware means, and this is very similar to Swayambhu. Swayambhu. Swayam means by itself, without any help. Swa or Swayam means by itself. So one case it is Swayam Prabhaha and the other one is Swayam Bhuhu. So one talks about Sat and the other one talks about Chit. But in both cases it means independently there. This has to be appreciated. So what it means is that when you know something, like for example, supposing you said, is there a table in this room? Somebody says, do you have a table? And then you say yes. How can you say yes, there is a table? There is a table in the room because you see it. So the table is not Swayam Swaprabhaha. It has to be revealed to you through your eyes. So it has a dependent reality. So for example, you can say, I don't know. There may be a table, but I don't know. Or you can say, I know it is not there. Or you can say, I know it is there. All three cases, I don't know, not there, there, are all dependent on your ability to cognize it. So the presence of the table depends on you. But that does not apply to you. Everything else is dependent on you, but you are not dependent on you. You are. You are. Self-prabha, self-effulgent. The consciousness doesn't need to be revealed to you, just like a table has to be revealed to you. But you are not revealed, you are not needed to be revealed. You are self-evident. All other things are evident to you because of certain conditions, but you are unconditionally evident. This is a big thing. You are there not because you are the body, not because you have thoughts. You are there. Swayambhu. I exist without any conditions. Swayam Prabha, Swaprabha. I am awareful without any conditions. You don't even have to be born. Birth, death don't mean anything. You are independently there. So this has to be revealed through the teaching. And once that word becomes, once the meaning of the word becomes clear, then this meditation can be done. So in this sense, the Shabda Anuvedhena Samadhi is more advanced than Drishya Anuvedhena Samadhi. You see that point? Because Drishya Anuvedhena Samadhi does require certain instructions to you about how to not be bothered by thoughts, disregard them, and just be on your own. So it does require some instruction, but not nearly as much instruction as in Shabda Anuvedhena. Because to reveal the meaning of words like Asangaha Satchidanandaha Swayam Prabhaha Dvaita Varjitaha, devoid of any duality, which we don't have time to do today, we'll do it some other time. Asmiti. So Asmiti means I am that. So the I am that is associated with all these words. And though these are not the only words, there are millions of words that, maybe not millions, but there are lots of words that the Shastra uses to express the truth about yourself. In all those he says Asmiti. So Asangaha Asmiti, Satchidanandaha Asmiti, Swaprabhaha Asmiti, Dvaita Varjitaha Asmiti. I am. This kind of doing samadhi, which requires more introduction, more education, more training. Just like a mother, mother and a father that has to really spend a lot of time educating, training the child about the words. Then once it is done, then the words become very powerful. Because then the child will say, can I have some milk? Oh, I don't want to touch this is dirty. Then words become very, very important. But they have to be infused with meaning, invested in meaning. So in that sense, the Shabda Anuvedhena Samadhi is more subtle and require more work on the part of the Shastra and more work on the part of the student to understand how to do this kind of a samadhi. So anyway, those are the ways of doing the samadhi, and we will proceed further in the next class. Okay, so with that I close this class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Good, wonderful. Don't see any questions, but happy that you all came, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next class. Om